All right, everyone, gather around the conversational campfire. Let's get real for a minute. We've all been in those talks, right? The ones that start with a simple question: did you remember to take out the trash? And suddenly escalate into a full blown existential debate about responsibility and the very fabric of your shared existence. And then the dreaded realization hits: you didn't take out the trash. In fact, you completely forgot. You are, in the eyes of your very just accuser, unequivocally, undeniably wrong. But here's the secret sauce, the golden nugget of conversational wisdom I've unearthed after navigating countless verbal landmines. Winning these moments isn't about magically conjuring up a defense that absolves you of all wrongdoing. It's about something far more nuanced, far more human. It's about being genuinely smart with your words, about understanding the emotional currents of the conversation, and about steering the ship of dialogue toward a calmer, more understanding port, even when your own navigational skills have clearly failed you. So, buckle up, my friends, because we're about to embark on a deep dive into the art of talking smart when you know, deep down in the pit of your stomach, that you've well and truly messed up. We're not talking about elaborate lies or manipulative tactics. We're talking about simple, honest, and surprisingly effective ways to navigate these tricky situations, preserve relationships, and maybe even emerge with a sliver of your conversational pride intact. Let's explore the three core principles that have saved my bacon more times than I care to admit. 1. Be like water, the super soft. Okay, you're right about that little thing, but move. Imagine a raging river, all churning and angry. If you try to stand firm against its force, you'll likely be swept away. But if you yield, if you flow with it, you can navigate its power. The same principle applies when you're in a heated discussion and you know you're in the wrong. Instead of instinctively building a defensive wall, try adopting the fluidity of water. The first step is often the hardest, acknowledging a piece of their perspective, even if it's just a small drop in their ocean of grievances. When someone is laying out all the ways you've erred, resist the urge to immediately counter with your own justifications or deflections. Instead, actively listen and identify a specific point, however minor, where you can genuinely agree. You know, you're absolutely right that I said I would handle that by noon, and it's now well past that time. My apologies. This small act of validation can be surprisingly powerful. Know, it shows that you're not completely dismissing their feelings or their assessment of the situation. It's a tiny crack in the armor of their anger, a signal that you're willing to see things, at least in part, from their point of view. But the key here is to not let that agreement become a full confession that leaves you drowning in a sea of guilt and recrimination. The next step is the artful pivot, the gentle redirection of the conversational flow. This is where the but comes into play, but not as a combative negation. Instead, use it as a bridge to introduce other relevant factors or your perspective on the broader issue. But what I was also juggling was this unexpected deadline that popped up, and it unfortunately threw my whole schedule off. You're not excusing your mistake, but you're providing context, offering a glimpse into the complexities of the situation without directly challenging the validity of their initial complaint. This approach also involves focusing on your intent, even if the outcome was flawed. My intention was definitely to get that done for you on time, because I know how important it is. Highlighting your positive intentions can soften the blow of your negative actions. It shows that your mistake wasn't born out of malice or disregard, but perhaps from oversight or being overwhelmed. Think of it like a dance. You're not leading, and you're certainly not trying to step on their toes. You're following their initial energy, acknowledging their lead, and then gently guiding the dance in a slightly different direction, towards a space of mutual understanding rather than outright conflict. It's about being responsive, adaptable, and ultimately seeking a harmonious resolution, even when you started out on the wrong foot. 2. Be super curious. Ask why, and tell me more like I'm 5 years old. When you find yourself in the argumentative crosshairs and the spotlight of scrutiny is revealing the rather flimsy nature of your position, one of the most disarming and surprisingly effective tactics is to embrace the role of the genuinely curious inquirer. Instead of digging in your heels and desperately trying to defend the indefensible, try shifting your focus outward, directing your attention and your questions toward understanding your opponent's perspective more deeply. This involves moving beyond surface-level apologies and delving into the why behind their feelings and their accusations. When someone is expressing anger or frustration stemming from your mistake, resist the urge to immediately jump to solutions or explanations. Instead, take a step back, and ask open-ended questions that encourage them to articulate their experience in detail. Can you tell me more about how that made you feel? Or help me understand the impact that my mistake had on your plans. These questions demonstrate a genuine interest in their emotional state and the tangible consequences of your actions. Furthermore, by asking for specific examples and detailed explanations, you create an opportunity for them to fully vent their frustrations, which can paradoxically often lead to a de-escalation of their anger. Sometimes people just need to feel heard and understood. By providing them with the space to articulate their grievances without interruption or defensiveness from your side, you allow them to release some of that pent-up emotion. This approach also buys you valuable time to process the situation and formulate a thoughtful response. While they are busy explaining their perspective, your mind can be working to understand the root of the issue, identify areas where you genuinely went wrong, and consider potential solutions that address their specific concerns. It's like hitting the pause button on the blame game and shifting the focus to collaborative problem solving. Moreover, by actively seeking to understand their viewpoint, you subtly position yourself as someone who is willing to learn and grow from their mistakes. This can foster a sense of empathy and understanding on their part, making them more receptive to your subsequent attempts to explain your actions or offer apologies. It transforms the interaction from a one-sided accusation into a more reciprocal dialogue. Think of it like being a detective trying to solve a case. You don't jump to conclusions, you gather information, ask questions, and try to understand the sequence of events from all perspectives. By adopting this curious and investigative approach in a difficult conversation, you can often uncover the underlying issues and pave the way for a more constructive resolution, even when you were initially in the wrong. 3. Become a fix-it hero. Okay, I messed up. What can we do to make it all better now? Ultimately, even in the most heated of arguments where your factual footing is less than solid, the most effective path toward a positive resolution often lies in shifting the focus away from the unproductive cycle of blame and recrimination and toward the shared goal of finding a way forward. This involves actively seeking common ground, emphasizing mutual objectives, and framing the conversation around collaborative solutions. Once you've acknowledged their feelings and gained a deeper understanding of their perspective through active listening and thoughtful questioning, the next step is to steer the conversation toward the future. Instead of dwelling on the past mistakes, propose a collaborative approach to rectifying the situation. Okay, I understand what happened and how it affected you. Now, what can we do together to make this right? This simple question immediately shifts the dynamic from an adversarial one to a problem-solving partnership. Highlighting shared goals and mutual benefits can also be incredibly effective. Even if you disagree on the specifics of what went wrong or who is ultimately to blame, you likely share some common objectives. I think we can both agree that the most important thing here is to ensure this doesn't happen again in the future. What steps can we put in place together to prevent that? By emphasizing these shared aspirations, you create a sense of unity and purpose, making the initial disagreement seem less insurmountable. Furthermore, actively solicit their input and ideas for solutions. What do you think would be the best way to address this moving forward? What steps would make you feel like things are back on track? This demonstrates that you value their perspective and are genuinely committed to finding a resolution that works for everyone involved. It empowers them to be part of the solution, rather than just the recipient of your apologies or explanations. This approach also involves a willingness to compromise and find middle ground. Even if you still believe your initial actions were partially justified in your own mind at least, being open to finding a solution that incorporates their needs and perspectives is crucial for moving forward. I might see things slightly differently, but I'm definitely willing to explore options that address your concerns and ensure we're both satisfied with the outcome. By focusing on shared goals, actively seeking collaborative solutions, and demonstrating a willingness to compromise, you build a bridge over the chasm of disagreement. You transform the conversation from a battle over who was right and who was wrong into a joint effort to find a positive path forward. This approach not only helps to de-escalate tension, but also strengthens relationships by fostering a sense of teamwork and mutual respect, even in the face of mistakes. And ultimately, that transforms a potentially negative encounter into an opportunity for growth and stronger connection, which, in the long run, is perhaps the most significant win of all. Final thought. So, there you have it, my friends. A collection of insights and strategies gleaned from the trenches of countless conversational skirmishes. A testament to the fact that navigating disagreements, especially when your factual compass is pointing south, is less about rigid adherence to being right and more about the fluid art of communication. It's about understanding the human element, recognizing the power of empathy, and skillfully steering the dialogue toward a space of mutual understanding and potential resolution. Remember, Remember, the goal isn't always to plant your flag on the hill of absolute correctness, especially when that hill is made of sand. True conversational intelligence lies in the ability to navigate those tricky moments with grace, to acknowledge missteps without complete capitulation, and to focus on building bridges of understanding rather than erecting walls of defensiveness. The techniques we've explored, one from the gentle art of yielding and pivoting to the insightful power of inquiry and the unifying force of shared goals, are not about manipulation or deception. They are about fostering genuine connection, even amidst disagreement. They are about recognizing that the ultimate aim of communication is often not to declare a victor, but to find a way forward, to preserve relationships, and to learn and grow from our interactions, even when those interactions are sparked by our own errors. The next time you find yourself in the argumentative hot seat, the undeniable truth of your wrongness weighing heavily upon you, remember these principles. Take a breath, listen actively, find those small points of agreement, ask genuine questions, and steer the conversation towards solutions and shared understanding. You might not always emerge with a triumphant declaration of "I was right all along" component placement, but you will emerge as someone who knows how to navigate difficult conversations with intelligence and empathy, a far more valuable victory in the long run. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your go-to strategies for navigating those tricky "I might be wrong here" moments? Which of these techniques resonates most with your own experiences? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Let's continue this conversation and learn from each other. And if you found this guide helpful, don't forget to share it with your fellow conversational adventurers, the ones who, like us, occasionally find themselves on the less than solid ground of factual inaccuracy but still strive to communicate with wisdom and grace. Until our next verbal sparring session, may it be filled with understanding, keep talking smart.